The most highly trained people I know in using lethal force are also the most judicious about making sure they minimize putting themselves in a chance where they'd ever have to use that information. I've never had a time in my professional life where Americans have been more concerned about their own self-protection. Having cameras everywhere actually help reduce crime? I've been asked this a lot, and you're probably going to find it a little surprising. I've talked to tons of law enforcement officials about this, and they're mixed in a lot of it. Yes, it does prevent some things, but what they're more shocked about is when people know they're being filmed, the acts of violence and the criminal acts that they'll do, knowing full well they're getting filmed. It gives you better documentation of the event, but doesn't necessarily stop violence or criminal acts as much as you'd think it is. I'm going to give you an example of this in Australia that kind of highlights all of this. Now remember, talking about your self-defense strategy, building your self-defense strategy, go to timlarkin.com, sign up for your free masterclass. That's where you start, absolutely free, and we start giving you the information that you can start making sure that you minimize the chance of violence coming into your life. Also, join the channel. Please share this channel. That's how it's growing, and it's been amazing to watch what you guys are doing. So thank you so much for that. Now, getting back to this idea of cameras. This is at a train station in Australia. It was just a vicious attack that happened in the early morning, meaning right after midnight time frame. Young man walking through with a backpack, and 3 guys just attack him. And I want you to hear kind of how they talk about it, in the descriptions, and then we'll talk a little bit about it. But realize they all know that this is cameras everywhere, and don't even hesitate. All right, so let's take a look at it. Okay, so you see they're coming up to him right now. This kid's walking in. You've got one guy behind him, the tallest guy, and then you've got these other 2 guys. All of a sudden, they just came out of nowhere, and they're behind him, following him in this, this tunnel area that goes to the train, to the train stop, and they're just following right in. Watch what happens.
This is a sort of attack that even the perpetrator's family would be disgusted by, and we'd be calling on anybody who knows these people to contact the police and give us the identities of these people. It's indescribable that something like this incident would occur.
Now look at this. This couple's coming in. The 3 stop. They stop their attack, but obviously the couple knows something's just happened, but they want nothing to do with it. They walk right by it, kind of look back at the very end. But look at the attackers. They just let them go by, kind of act nonchalant, and then get right back to work.
At a railway station that is, as you can see from the footage, it's clearly visible that the area is covered by closed-circuit television, and it's just blatantly occurring in an area where it's displayed that CCTV is around. We're very confident that we're going to be identifying these offenders in the short term, and I would appeal to them to give themselves up. Really, it's better for them in the long run that they come and see us rather than us come and have to see them. We're appalled by what's happened, but we obviously want to hear other sides of version of events also.
There's no worry on them. They're just taking their time as they're doing this to this kid.
The young man involved is a 23-year-old man from Sunshine. He's suffered some serious head injuries and facial lacerations as a result. He was unconscious for a number of minutes, and as you can see there, staggered quite markedly following the assault, and it's obviously had a great effect on him. He isn't available for this conference today due to those reasons of not wanting to be contacted by the police at the minute.
Look at him trying to stand.
Look, the images that you've just seen prior to this opening now pretty much speak for themselves. It's a pretty appalling attack on a vulnerable young man who was by himself at the railway station at Sunshine in the early hours of the 24th, being yesterday. At the moment I'm appealing for witnesses who may have been in the area at the time. You can see from that footage that there were some people there who we would dearly love to speak to about their observations at the railway station at the time. Obviously, we'd like to hear from them via Crime Stoppers on the relevant number. He has a very good memory of the incident leading up to the assault, but and very good descriptions of the offenders from the statement that's been taken from him, but the specifics about conversation are not.
So what's interesting about this whole description of everything is they're talking about like literally the police officer says, we really want to get a hold of these perpetrators, even their parents, meaning the three guys that are beating the crap out of this kid, even their parents would be appalled by this. It's very interesting. You know, they're very careful how they talk about both sides on this. I understand they have to, but it almost seems like they're almost conciliatory. And then he also says after this, hey, we want to make sure not only do we talk to them, but we want to hear their side to it because, you know, we want to hear both sides to this. And it just, you know, when you look at this assault, you just sit there and shake your head, you know. But the key thing that he said was this happened in the early mornings. What do you mean? That means, you know, about, you know, anywhere from 12 to like 2 in the morning at a train station. This kid's by himself with a backpack walking through. It's just a prime target. He's not a big kid. And you saw what happened. And you saw that people didn't even care. Look at this. This couple's literally walking right by. So again, you know, I've shown videos like this. I think the last one I showed was like in Rome when a woman got attacked. And, you know, we have to realize that cameras, again, tools give us these false senses of security. The idea that, well, we have cameras up, you know, it's going to keep people on the straight and narrow. It absolutely hasn't. In fact, a lot of the cops I talk to say they just have better footage. You know, that's it. You know, they get better footage on there. So is it a deterrent? Not the way we think. And look, you know, that assault that you saw, again, that kid was very lucky because a lot of the strikes, as bad as they looked, they could have been a lot worse. These guys were inaccurate. Maybe they were drunk. It looked like they were a little unstable when they're doing these strikes. Looked like one of them was laughing. But it was just absolutely just pure violence that went on, just pure raw violence. And the fact that this kid was able to recover, he was very, very lucky because a lot of those strikes could have done permanent damage. And, you know, luckily that did not happen in this case. But he was hurt for quite some time. Definitely got some, you know, brain injuries in there that had to heal. So what's the point of showing this? It's just, I guess it's because so many of you wrote, in fact, I get a lot of people from like the UK and like New York, and people say, well, we got cameras, so, you know, it really helps. And, you know, maybe in other places, you know, we have to have more of a police presence, but, you know, the cameras themselves are keeping people on the straight and narrow. Very naive. I know a lot of you are already like shaking heads going, what? You'd be surprised the number of inquiries I get along those lines. So I wanted to just quickly show just one. I've got tons, obviously, of video of people being filmed and doing just horrific acts of violence. So again, it still comes down to the idea of being vigilant about yourself. And this kid, I hope, you know, has learned that lesson that why make yourself an easier target? Why do things? You know, oftentimes I am getting accused of victim blaming, and it's not victim blaming. It's when you're trained, and this is why I can't implore you enough to take the free masterclass at timlarkin.com, because the idea is you want to make sure that you minimize the chance of violence coming in your life. And so all these have tos, like I have to go out at this time of night. I don't have a choice. I need to park here. I need to do this. All of a sudden, those things start dropping away. Once you realize what you would have to do to survive an assault like that or do something like that, you don't even want to put yourself in those situations. Like I said, the most highly trained people I know in using lethal force are also the most judicious about making sure they minimize putting themselves in a chance where they'd ever have to use that information. So again, this is just another reminder, and I hope you take it to heart. Please support the channel. Please keep telling people about this. Please share this video with somebody you think needs to see this. And again, stay safe.